Hey guys, how's it going? Today I want to show some love to my GPD MicroPC. Especially, I want to try using it for some retro gaming. I haven't really used this computer all that much. I got it last year. I did a whole review unboxing video of it already, backed it on Indiegogo. And I originally got it because it is a pretty unique computer. I mean, just the size of it and everything, it's very unique. It has 9 ports on a machine this small, so that's pretty amazing, including like a serial port, which is something you don't see on any modern PC these days. Full-size Ethernet, which is something that's only on gaming laptops now. So it has a lot of cool features about it. You see that the display and the keyboard layout of this computer is really unique as well. And I wanted to try using it for some retro gaming. Well, why did I think about that? Well, because as you guys may or may not know, so this is a GPD Win 2 as well. Some of you may, well, a lot of you who are actually interested in the micro PC probably have heard of the Win 2. This is GPD's previous gaming console device, so which I also backed on Indiegogo. So they just announced a new GPD device called the GPD Win Max, and that one is going to be obviously a bigger version of this, but it's going to be more like I would say it looks like it's a combination of the GPD P2 Max, which is, you know, an iPad mini sized netbook type computer, but it's going to have the controls, the physical controls of the GPD Win 2 on it, right? So it's basically, it's got all these controls on it, and then it has a much wider keyboard, similar to what you would see in the GPD P2 Max or even the One Mix Yoga 3, which I also have, right? So here's my One Mix Yoga 3. I don't have the GPD P2 Max, but this is the One Mix Yoga 3, and I assume that the Win Max is going to be sort of like, it's going to be like this big, right? It's going to be like a little bit lengthier right here, but it's roughly almost like this width, right? And the gaming controls will be up here. Now I know that some people already got the prototypes already. Lilliputiing, I think, got it. The Fox got it. But for most of us, we're waiting for the Indiegogo campaign to start, right? So I have this netbook as kind of a mock-up, if you will, right? So the Win Max will probably have the controls, the analog controls up here, right? Similar to the Win 2, it's going to have all the buttons up here, and then it's going to have a more squished keyboard right here, right? But I think this is still okay, right? I can still imagine myself gaming like this, even on the One Mix Yoga 3, if this was the size of the Win Max, and I'm kind of approximating it here, then I think that would be okay. And this is going to be way more powerful, right? The Win Max is going to be, it's going to have the Ice Lake GPU. They've done a lot of benchmarks on it. It's going to be way more powerful than the Win 2. This one has the HD graphics 615. So a lot of people asked me why on that GPD Win 2 video I did 2 years ago mostly showed retro games on it, because the AAA games, you know, I was afraid that it wouldn't be able to run them very smoothly because it has the HD graphics 615, and plus this particular unit that I have has overheating issues, unfortunately. So I tried running some of the AAA games on it, and yeah, it just turns off. So it has some overheating issues on it. So that's another problem with this device, right? So I like the GPD Win 2 a lot. The form factor, you know, I like how it's so small, it's so portable. It's basically just like holding, yeah, it's just like holding like a pocket Windows gaming machine, right? And this is pretty much the best one out there. I got a unit which has some thermal issues. Unfortunately, I've looked online. Apparently, the voltage limiter might be an issue there, so I might have to adjust the voltage a bit to get this not to turn off when I'm playing intensive games. But I do like the form factor. I will probably be getting the Win Max as well, so it's going to be like this size, except with, you know, gaming controls in a more cramped keyboard. So the question is, if I get the Win Max, then should I keep the Win 2? Because I know that they serve a similar function, but the Win 2 is much smaller, right? This is the main advantage of the Win 2, is that it's a lot smaller than the Win Max, right? But the Win Max is going to be pretty much better in every other way. It's going to be way more powerful, and it's going to have a bigger display, right? It's going to have all the latest, you know, HDMI. I think it has Ethernet as well, which this does not have Ethernet. So it has a lot more ports as well. So should I keep the Win 2 if I get the Win Max is something I was thinking about, right? And if I didn't, then perhaps I could use the micro PC instead. So that's why I was starting off this video with the micro PC, because I was thinking if I get the Win Max, then I might not need the Win 2 anymore if the micro PC can be used to play retro games as well. Right now, obviously, the Win 2 and the Micro PC are quite different. They're not really meant for the same purpose. The Win 2 is slightly smaller lengthwise, widthwise they're about the same, but the Win 2 is meant for, obviously it's meant for gaming with these analog controls and the face buttons right here. But I was thinking, what about the Micro PC? How well does it do gaming, right? I know it doesn't have the analog controls, but what about just using the keyboard, right? How well does it work? So that's why I want to test out today. Now, before I go into this, I actually just want to highlight some of my older devices, which I did not fully highlight in my older videos. So this is the Vulcan Flip Start, which is from 2007. I did do a video on the Vulcan Flip Start before, so I'll put the video up here. You guys can see it. I do have a video of it playing old DOS games and Windows 9X games on it, but I didn't really show you guys, just the overview of it and everything. And unfortunately, if you search on YouTube for the Vulcan Flip Start, you'll find a video that I made, but it's posted under a different name. So it's called UMPC Overview, and it has 24,000 views, and it's posted by a user called Guitar Gamer 440. And that is one of the old accounts I made, because at that time YouTube didn't let me upload videos longer than 15 minutes because my account had a copyright strike on it at that time. And unfortunately, so that account was just used as an experiment, right? I uploaded those videos and then I didn't need it anymore after YouTube unsuspended me. So basically that account's not used anymore. And I deleted the parent account of that account because it was originally a child account. And on YouTube, apparently, this is really stupid, but on YouTube, if you delete the parent account, it does not delete the child account or the videos on the child account. So that's why you have that video with, you see a bunch of videos that are basically copies of videos under my main account, which is this account, but it's under a different name called Guitar Gamer 440. If you ever see that, do not subscribe to that account. Do not watch that video, because that is an account I can no longer use. I can't access it anymore because the parent account's deleted. So I can no longer access that account. I can't delete that account. I can't delete the videos on that account. So it's just floating around, unfortunately. And yeah, I'm really kind of irritated because that video got 24,000 views, and my main video, my original video, which is under my main account, only got 1.7K views. So I'm really kind of irritated about that this other video on this other account I can no longer access has way more views. So please do not look at that video. Do not subscribe to that account, okay? I'm going to link that. I'm going to link my real video right here if you really want to watch it. UMPC overview, which includes this device and a bunch of other devices as well. Please watch this video and please subscribe to this main account if you haven't already. Okay, do not subscribe to any other account. Do not subscribe to Guitar Gamer 440. That account's no longer used. So just want to make that PSA, I guess, because I did not realize that people were still subscribing to that account. I didn't realize that people were still watching the videos under that account, and it's pretty much useless because I'm never going to be getting any comments under that. I'm never going to respond to any comments under that account because I no longer have access to that account. So yeah. Anyways, back to the subject matter. I want to talk about the Vulcan Flip Start because this was previously the UMPC I had that was the best at playing the old retro DOS games and stuff like that. So this is all we had before the GPD Win 1 came out. This Vulcan Flip Start, this was the UMPC that I found was the most capable at handling the old retro style games. Now we also had the Open Pandora, which I also did a video of before. This device is mostly meant for emulation, right? So I did a video on the emulation of this device compared to the NVIDIA Shield, which I also put up here as well. So if you want to check that out, you can. But yeah, this device is mostly meant for, this runs Linux, so it's mostly meant for emulation. It can play DOS games as well, I believe. I think I ran a few DOS games on it as well. But yeah, this is the Open Pandora. Just want to do a few comparisons of these devices, right? So Open Pandora from 2012, Vulcan Flip Start from 2007, GPD Win 2 from 2018, and the MicroPC from last year, okay? So I say like these two are probably more comparable. These two are probably more comparable because these two are meant more for gaming. They have analog controls. All right, so I'm not going to boot up these two because I've already done that in my previous videos. You can watch them if you want. But I do want to give a proper overview of these devices, which I didn't give in those videos. So first of all, this is the Open Pandora. This device was released in 2012. This is back before Kickstarter or Indiegogo or any of those crowdfunding sites. I think just a bunch of guys decided to make this based out of the homebrew development scene. They installed Linux on it. I think it came with Angstrom by default. And you can install your own Linux versions on it. They sold like a preview versions of this device. This is a 1 gigahertz version, I think. It's no longer under development. It's very, very rare, hard to find. They are releasing a successor, and by they, I mean this one guy called MicroMosic. He's pretty much the only guy working on it now. You can go to pyrahandheld.com. He's still developing the successor, which is called the DragonBox Pyra. I pre-ordered it way back in 2016, so it's been 4 years so far. He's still been working on it. So it's definitely been one of the devices I've been waiting for the longest, along with the Smog C. So I don't know when those devices are going to come out. But I've been waiting for them since 2016, like 4 years now. Anyways, as you can tell, this is a very unique device. It is a fully fledged computer. It is kind of like the spiritual prequel to the GPD Win series. I mean, look at that, right? It is kind of similar, except this GPD 1 came out in 2016, right? This is all the way back in 2012, so kind of this came out way before then, and this was based off a lot of those open source Linux boxes and emulation boxes that were done back then. You see the function row is just one row up here, and then you have start, select. They have the main menu screen right here, I think the home screen. They've got the dual analog controls, which honestly don't feel all that great. They're very, very shallow. Then a D-pad here, which is just okay. And then the controls here. Honestly, like the analog controls on the... Actually, I want to say the analog controls on the GPD Win 2 aren't that great either. They're still pretty shallow. They're kind of like they feel like the PS Vita controllers, actually. So if you ever handle a PS Vita or PSP analog stick, that's what this reminds me of. And they had this, GPD has this on most of their devices, including the XD Plus. They have the same analog sticks, which I don't really actually like because they're a little bit flimsy for me. The analog sticks I think are the most robust are the ones for the NVIDIA Shield Portable. Those ones had the best analog sticks. They were very, very robust. In fact, I can show you the NVIDIA Shield Portable right here, right now. So you can see what I'm talking about. See these analog sticks right here? Again, I think they're kind of flimsy. These ones are very, very heavy duty on the NVIDIA Shield. And to this day, I think these are one of the best analog sticks I've ever used in any portable device. The NVIDIA Shield Portable was way ahead of its time. It's definitely incredibly well built. And, I think the D-pad and the controls and the face buttons on these devices are okay. But the NVIDIA Shield Portable definitely is the best in terms of build quality. I mean, it just feels so nice. It's just a shame that NVIDIA doesn't produce this anymore. And this is running an old version of Android, which is 4.4, I think. So it's an old device, but the build quality for the controls and stuff are still the best I've experienced. So that's why I still keep this one around. Another device I could talk about is the Razer Phone 2 with the Jungle Cat controllers. These analog sticks are also okay. I wouldn't say that they're on the NVIDIA Shield's level, but I still think they're better than the ones here on the Win 2. And these ones are really bad because they have almost no, at least this ones have more movement. I think this one doesn't really feel like you're moving it very much. But yeah, I feel like the Jungle Cat comes next after the NVIDIA Shield. I like these controllers too. So I put the NVIDIA Shield first for the comfort of the controllers. And how well built they are. I put the Jungle Cat second with the Razer Phone 2, and this is pretty much my main emulation device. So I'm not going to be playing any emulations on these devices because I have my Razer Phone 2 for that. Right, this is my main emulation devices. I can play up to GameCube games on this. I haven't tried anything else higher than that, but at least up to GameCube games, it seems to work very well, and I've done that in another video as well. And back to the Pandora. Okay. So again, the Win 2, not bad. I think better than the Pandora. Pandora is, yeah, probably the worst of these so far. But then again, this device came out, the earliest 2012. So gotta give it a little bit of credit for that. The keyboard is very, very shallow. It's very, very mushy. I wouldn't say it's a great keyboard at all. I mean, it'll work for typing stuff in, but I don't like the feeling of using it. This is definitely more tactile feedback on the Win 2, right? The Win 2, I get more tactile feedback. Now, the Win 1 is something different. If you have the Win 1, that keyboard sucks. It's basically a Bluetooth keyboard that came from one of those random China suppliers on Amazon, and they stuck it onto a chassis. Basically, that's what the Win 1 was. So the Win 2 has a much better keyboard. This one Definitely gives you something tactile, and it's raised, right? It's got these raised textures, which I like. Pandora, yeah, doesn't feel very good, very mushy, right? Yeah, that's really all I can say about it. It's got speakers, but they're very weak speakers, and two SD card slots right here, full size, headphone jack. This is the power button or power switch right here. This one is for volume control, I think. It's interesting they have a dial for that right here. And then they have a removable battery actually, which is something that's interesting. So this is a custom made battery. It says Pandora here. Ultra portability without sacrificing capabilities. Interesting. This is not, this is not a device by a major manufacturer at all, right? This is by a very small group of dedicated people of the homebrew community. So it's impressive that they made something like this, right? Definitely, I would say out of these, GPD is actually the biggest company, which is kind of crazy to think about. GPD is the biggest company. Vulkan is kind of like a small company as well that went bankrupt. And then this one, Open Pandora, is by a small community of people that is now pretty much just one or two people now on the Pyra handheld website. It's just Micro Mosick and his assistant Nicholas. I think that's it. Which is why they're taking so long to get the Dragon Box Pyra, right? And these only have these two trigger buttons right here, right? Left and right. Two trigger buttons. So the GPD Win 2 has a ton more, right? It's got 3 on the back on each side, whereas the Pandora only had 2. You can compare the two. USB 2 slot, I think. This is USB 2. This is USB 3. Charger here, which is proprietary. And then you got mini USB cable right here. And then they have another proprietary kind of adapter right here. So a lot of proprietary ports on the Open Pandora. It does have 2 full-size SD, but a lot of proprietary slots on the back. And then the Win 2 has the micro HDMI, SD, micro SD, headphone jack, USB charges with USB-C, which is a lot better, right? And this removable SSD even. So definitely Win 2 is better, but it came out 6 years later. So what do you expect? Right? The Open Pandora is this is kind of the pioneer, I would say, of a lot of these gaming UMPCs that you see now. Back in 2012, there really wasn't a lot of gaming UMPCs on the market, but the Open Pandora kind of is the pioneer of that, right? So now it looks very outdated, and it is, because the Win 2 is pretty much better in every way, except it doesn't run Linux, but you could install Linux on it if you wanted. But the Pandora was a pioneer for what it is, and for that, it's a good collector's piece, and I will wait for the Dragon Box Pyra. However long that will take to come out. It would be a good comparison to compare that against the Win 2. Alright, and the Vulkan Flipstar is the only one I can say that's actually older than the Open Pandora. This device came out in 2007. Of course, it wasn't really meant for gaming. This is like I said, the MicroPC is probably a better comparison for this. It's not really meant for gaming. It's just a UMPC with a form factor I decided was the best out of the time. There was the Sony Vaio UX, there was a Sony Vaio P, there was the Okio Model 2, there was the Samsung Q1, there was all these UMPCs that came out in the mid-2000s. This was the best one out of that bunch for the retro handheld style gaming. Okay, so some unique features about this device. This screen right here, you can see this in my Vulkan Flip Start video, but it's kind of like Windows Sideshow, which Windows Vista had back in the day, but it's not. it's very interesting feature though to have this, but it wasn't really that useful. It just showed your inbox, your emails, kind of like a startup or close logo or whatever. You can't really interact with it that much. It's just something you can see at a glance. So I would say it's not even as useful as Windows Sideshow was, which wasn't even that useful either. And then I think what this is you put like some kind of SIM card slot in here, and you can use it on the go. I think that's what this is. Could be mistaken, but I think this had that ability back then to actually travel, because this was originally meant for business travelers, right? And this was really unique at the time. Business travelers didn't have something like this at the time, something so small and portable. And then if you go over the controls at the side here, you have left, right media controls, play and pause. You have I think this was actually for scrolling. This may be a scrolling dial, if I remember correctly. And then I forget what this button did. This headphone jack right here. Then you have a proprietary kind of extension port. So Vulkan Flipstar, also Vulkan, the company, which is originally backed by Paul Allen. Very, very small company that went bankrupt pretty fast, but it was backed by Paul Allen at the time. They were doing some pretty cool stuff with it. Um, they made basically just this device, and that was it. Yeah, so they made this proprietary extension port, which added the VGA and a video out and some Ethernet. I think that was it. Doesn't really. I think you had to have one back then, right? Because back then everything was kind of wired, so you had to have a extension port. You couldn't fit everything on here. This was very, very big and bulky. You have one USB 2 port. That's it in the charger. So definitely not a lot of ports because you couldn't really fit it back then. This was pretty much, you can just see how big this is, okay? So compared to the Micro PC, you can see Micro PC has way more ports, right? Micro SD, USB, 2 USBs, right? It's got a total of 3 USBs. USB-C for charging, right? This one's proprietary chargers like everything was back then. Full-size Ethernet and HDMI and serial port, COM port right here. No need for a dongle, right? The Vulcan Flipstart needed a dongle to get all those things. The Micro didn't need a dongle, and it's way slimmer. But, you know, that's how much technology has advanced. This is from 2007. This is from 2019. So that's how much 12 years difference has got us. It's gotten probably like half the height right here, right? See how much thicker the Vulcan Flipstart is, right? It's so much thicker. But still very, very cool just for the collection, right? For the, again, the historical purposes, the Vulcan Flipstart's very cool. If you open them up, you can see that they are very, very common. So Flipstart with the trackpad right here. Micro with the trackpad right here. Left and click right mouse buttons, left and click right mouse buttons. And both have the power button in the middle. And the keyboards are both really unique. Nothing like the Micro PC keyboard. I've never seen a keyboard like this. Same thing with the Vulcan Flipstart. Never seen a keyboard like this. Another thing that's cool though that I wish the Micro PC could have had actually, besides the trackpad. I mean, it's cool that they included a trackpad. I also wish they included some kind of nub like a track point. And Vulcan gives us that here, right? With a trackpad and a track point nub, like ThinkPad type track point nub right here. Give you 2 options. That's cool, right? And then you have a D-pad right here. Yes, that's actually a D-pad. That's actually an arrow pad, but it can be used as a D-pad. And then you have media playback specific controls down here. And then you have a special button for Control Alt Delete. Isn't that cool? And a webcam. The Micro PC does not have a webcam, I don't think. Nope. This even has a webcam right here. It's not in a good position, but at least it has one. So very, very unique device. Again, you can see my video if you actually want to see it running some games. But previously, I would say for a non-dedicated gaming handheld, like so the Pandora was actually the first that was actually kind of dedicated. The first UMPC that was kind of dedicated towards gaming, if you will. But the Vulcan Flipstart was the first UMPC not dedicated to gaming, but just really, really, I think the layout was just really, really good for gaming at the time. So you can be playing games like this, right? Imagine like a Windows game. I just use this to move left and right, right? I can use the D-pad, go forward and back. I can use these 2 mouse buttons, right? And then a trackpad for operating in Windows. And then for DOS games, which often use Control and Alt space, right? It's very, very easy to access down here, right? WASD keys right here, when you can use that while using the track point right here. So out of the older UMPC, the first generation of UMPC devices, I would say the Vulcan Flipstart was the best for out of the box. I guess the layout was just really, really good for playing the retro games. Even though the Flipstart was not meant to be a gaming UMPC like the Pandora or the Win 2, it was actually for business travelers, but still, I like the layout for gaming. So, which brings us to the Micro PC, right? Which, as I said, has kind of a similar layout to the Vulcan Flipstart. Of course, is more modernized. The keyboard layout is different, but at least when it comes to where the control layouts are positioned, right? You have Control Alt space down here for DOS games, and you don't have a D-pad, but you have the arrow keys right here, which actually might be more ergonomic in this case. And then you have the trackpad. Again, I wish I had the track point as well. Just like the Flipstart, it gave you 2 options, but here you only have the trackpad, and then you have the left and right here. So I've already shown you guys the Flipstart, the Pandora, and the Win 2 all those devices I've shown in previous videos running different games, I have not shown you guys how the micro PC does at running retro games. So let's do that right now. Alright, so now I got the micro PC booted up. Now I just want to know, obviously that it's not going to be comparable to the Win 2 in terms of playing these games because it doesn't have those analog sticks or the trigger buttons or anything. It's not meant to be a gaming UMPC like that, but I do want to just see if it's capable enough, right? See if it can play at least the games that mostly require a keyboard. Sometimes mouse input, but I'm not expecting it to be good at games that require mouse input because it just has a trackpad. I don't have any analog control stick here. So we're going to try some games out here. I just want to try mostly DOS games because those are the games that don't require the mouse too much. Mostly the keyboard games, which I think would be cool to play on here. So I just want to test to see if the micro PC is going to be good at playing the DOS games mostly, and maybe older WinX games. That's mostly what I want to test here. I'm not expecting to play any AAA type of titles here. Okay, good old Apogee. This is Biomenace. Oh, this is actually a pretty difficult game. I remember I played a lot of it back in the day. Okay. Control jump. So I just want to see, is this layout going to be okay enough for playing DOS games at least? At least as good as the Vulcan Flip Start. I'm expecting to be better than the Vulcan Flip Start though. at playing that. Okay, fire. Okay. And it would be nice if I can just play this without looking down at the keyboard at all, preferably. Okay. Oh. Okay. So I can fire grenades, fine. It's actually okay. Can I play like this for a long period of time? I think for like an hour or two, maybe it's okay. I don't think maybe longer than that. Obviously, it's not extremely ergonomic or anything. Having analog control would definitely be better, but it's okay. I can. It's not uncomfortable. I would say that it's not extremely uncomfortable or anything. Of course, again, I'm not going to run any emulators on here or ROMs. That's what my Razer Phone 2 is for. But you can do that here as well, and I think the keyboard layout would be okay for that as well. Just got to map the controls to the right keyboard keys. Okay, Blake Stone's a classic. I'm going to play Planet Strike. One of my favorite games, actually. Okay, so here's Planet Strike. I definitely played Aliens of Gold more, so I'm not as familiar with this. But this is one of those games that I don't think you need a mouse for. It's one of those early Wolfenstein 3D type 3D games where it doesn't really need a mouse. So I think Doom is where you really started to use a mouse, but not for Wolfenstein 3D type games. So I think you press, is it E? No, the space bar, I think. Yeah, that's right. Oh, oh. Alright. Get something with vending machine. Okay, okay. Oh, this gun. Give me a food credit. Oh, yeah. I hurt someone. So this is okay to play. Oh, it's not bad. Oh god. There we go. Alright. Health kit. Alright, yeah, it's fine. Big Stone is fine with this. Again, I think these older 3D games are fine to play. Like, the micro PC isn't going to be good for games requiring a mouse because of the trackpad. Again, I wish I had a track point, or at least as an option, but because it has a trackpad, it's not extremely good for games that require a mouse. But for these older like 3D games, that Wolfenstein 3D type games that don't require a mouse, it's pretty good. try Duke Nukem 2. That's one of the classic games. Yep. Traps 3. Sure. Love the soundtrack in this game, it's really good. No, I'm not going to be a competitive gamer or anything using this, but the micro PC is definitely okay for playing these retro style games. Just wanted to see if the layout was good enough, was ergonomic enough for me to play for an extended period of time. Again, not expecting anything like the Win 2, but just thinking if I didn't have the Win 2 and I just had the micro PC, would I be able to use this micro PC instead to play these old games? And the answer seems to be yeah. Of course, I will try a game that requires mouse support as well, because there are older Win 9X games that do require the mouse that I want to try out as well. Duke Nukem, yeah, Duke Nukem 2 is fine. Great game to play. Okay. And then I'm not sure if I want to go with Quake 3 Arena. You need to be really good at mouse support to do that. My friend did beat me at Quake 3 Arena with the trackpad though, so I can try that. So my friend was so good at Quake 3 Arena that he beat me using the trackpad when I was using a mouse. So right now, see if we can use the trackpad for Quake 3. Okay. Fight. Sure. Can we do it? Can we use the trackpad to kill people? Oh god. I mean, it's alright. It's not as bad as I thought. Of course, using the space bar to jump is going to be a little bit painful. You have to stretch your thumb all the way down here to do it. Oh. Oops. The turning is kind of slow. Hey, I took someone out. Turning is, of course, slow because you're using a trackpad. Oh, of course, I can also press the trackpad to fire as well, so that might save some time. I can press the trackpad as well, forgot about that. Alright. And we can switch weapons, right? Oh, that's zoom? Didn't know how to zoom. Alright, we can use this, because old school FPS games, you can always switch weapons using the numbers. Right. Oh. Oh yeah, got him. Alright, I'm actually playing decent on Quake 3 using a trackpad. But it is the CPU, so... Alright. Of course, if I'm playing against real people, real people using a mouse, I'm gonna die, right? But you can play against CPU using the trackpad, I guess. So that's fine. What else? Raptor Call the Shadows. That's a classic one. This game's soundtrack is like one of the best. I would say top 5 DOS game soundtracks, along with Traffic Department 2142, Jazz Jackrabbit, Highway Hunter. Those games are really good. So this is a shooter, so... Oh, I didn't enter my name. Okay, that's right. Oh, no, rookie. Buy up all the energy modules. Yeah, classic music right here. This is to switch weapon, I think, but I don't have any weapons to switch. But it's okay playing a shooter on the micro PC right now. I think space is to release a bomb or something. I don't have that though. Speakers on the micro PC aren't great, but it's a DOS game, so how good your speakers are don't really matter all that much. I mean, they're very, very simple sounds, so. But of course, still catchy, just like the soundtrack here. They may be simple, but they're catchy. Oh, dumbfire missiles. Or just missiles, rather. I forget the weapons. So shooters like this are fine too. Again, no mouse support required, so that's better. Don't have to use the trackpad. Alright, next let's play Jazz Jackrabbit 2. That's another one of my favorite games. And you know, like, I've always secretly had the hope that Epic Mega Games would someday bring back Jazz Jackrabbit. I mean, I know that they're making so much money with Fortnite and Unreal Engine, but man, Jazz Jackrabbit is like my childhood. This was my childhood, man. I'm not going to say it's as good or impactful as Sonic the Hedgehog, but this was basically the Sonic the Hedgehog of PC games, right? At least to me, this was my childhood. Oh, I have to play this first. Oh, it can be Lori this time. I was never Lori before. Yeah, just the soundtrack. The graphics are so late 90s, it's incredible. I love the soundtrack of this game too, and the gameplay, it's so fluid. Okay, I had to use spacebar to fire in this game, which is a farther reach than Alt. So it is not optimal for sure. It is a little bit uncomfortable having to go from control to spacebar, but yeah. Some of these games, that is what you had to do. I mean, yeah, once I play Jazz Jackrabbit, it just takes me back to the late 90s. Such a good time. Positive vibes, y'all. Before the pre-September 11th world. Positive vibes. Alright. Yeah, this was like my childhood. For other people it was Sonic the Hedgehog, for me it was Jazz Jackrabbit. the Sonic of the PC. It was very fluid. The movement, everything was very fluid. The soundtrack was awesome. The gameplay, it's not exactly derivative of Sonic, I would say, because Sonic can't shoot a gun, and Jazz Jackrabbit can. So it's like Sonic the Hedgehog, but you can shoot a gun. So that's cool, right? Alright, so, whoop, yep, there's some Sonic type stuff right here. Yeah, it's still classic to play. Maybe someday someone will bring back Jazz Jackrabbit. That is my hope. It is one of the best DOS games ever, I think. Anyways, yep, Jazz Jackrabbit works fine here. Although you do need more of a stretch for your hands to go from control to space. So I'm not going to say it's totally comfortable or anything, but it is playable on the micro PC layout. All right, and what other game? Let's see. All right, let's end off with Shadow Warrior Redux. Okay. This is using the build engine, which is the same thing as Duke Nukem 3D. So basically, if you can play Shadow Warrior on this, you can also play Duke Nukem 3D as well.
A ninja knows no fear.
Okay. Oh, you use the mouse button. Okay. So yeah, arrow keys to move, and oh, I can also use my trackpad to turn. Okay. So I think for this game I have to use arrow keys and left and right click. It's an interesting combination, but it's not totally uncomfortable. Not totally uncomfortable. It's okay. I think you can use E here. Yep. Yeah. So arrow keys and left and right click seem to be an okay combination. I'm not too uncomfortable using that. And space, yeah, the space is a little bit of a reach. Oh god. Yeah, but the space is a little bit of a stretch for jumping. Actually, let's play Duke Nukem 3D because there is a jump that I want to test using this combination. So Megaton Edition obviously is the preferred version of Duke Nukem 3D over the 20th anniversary because it has more maps. But this is the classic. Let's just start with the classic first level of Duke Nukem 3D. Alright, so this is the classic first level of Duke Nukem 3D. What's interesting is I can't use the arrows like I did in Shadow Warrior. I have to use WASD. Okay, so I use WASD for movement. So this might be more challenging, right? I have to use WASD for movement, which makes it more challenging. So on this PC, if you're playing a game, it's actually easier to use the arrow keys than WASD for the ergonomics. So instead of using the left click right here, that's not very ergonomic going from the W. I'm just going to click the trackpad for shooting. Yeah. So I'm going to click the trackpad instead of left clicking. So let's see. I mean, it takes time to get used to, yeah. And then you have to go to the space bar for jumping. And this is definitely not an ideal layout. Oh. Ah, wait. There we go. Yeah, this is definitely not as good as Shadow Warrior for this computer. So using WASD is not as convenient as using arrow keys, for sure, and I have to use a trackpad. And then I have to use E for this. Right. Yeah. So that's definitely doable, but I think there is the concern that you might accidentally click on the trackpad and shoot yourself, especially with the rocket launcher. Yep. Oh. Oh. What's he going? Who is he? The heck? What the heck? Alright, well, let's just say for games that require WASD to move, it's definitely not ideal. So this computer is definitely not good for games that are like that, which is like most modern games, right? So a lot of retro games, you'll be okay using the arrow keys, but for modern games using WASD, it's not very ergonomic. Yeah. They have to use the trackpad click to do something. Then the space bar for jumping is a bit of a stretch. Oh, God. Yeah, so I definitely think that for games that need WASD to move, like Duke Nukem 3D, it's not as comfortable. And you have to use, if you have to use a trackpad to click, it's definitely not ideal. I would much rather prefer the other layout. So Shadow Warrior has this in kind of reverse, where they have the arrow keys and they have the left and right click, and that's definitely more ergonomic than this one. So if that makes sense, but you can probably reconfigure those controls in a lot of the modern games as well. So yeah, I think that's what I learned from playing Duke Nukem and Shadow Warrior, is using arrow keys and left and right mouse click. This is a lot more comfortable than using WASD plus the trackpad. Yeah, so use this if possible, right? But if in games, you know, if you have to turn using the trackpad, then you can't really do much about that. So again, trying to stay away from games that need mouse. Preferable just to use games like old retro games that only need the keyboard, right? And there are some like modern games that only really use the keyboard, right? There's a lot of new retro style games like Castle Crashers, for example, Super Meat Boy, right? There's another one, Celeste, right? Some of those other retro style games that only really need the keyboard, doesn't need the mouse, 2D games. A lot of indie titles these days, Shovel Knight, Hollow Knight, Cuphead, all those are 2D games, don't require mouse support, would also work well with the GPD Micro, I think. So yeah, I think the GPD Micro PC is, it depends on the types of games you're playing. I think compared to the GPD Win 2, I wanted to see how well it can play some retro games. At least when it comes to games that only require the keyboard and doesn't really need the mouse much, then I think it's fine. It's like 80-90% there. Once you get to games that need WASD and like mouse support, then the GPD Win 2 is like a lot better, right? So it really depends on what type of games you want to play in here. Obviously, Win 2 is better for pretty much every game, but really much better than the Micro PC for games that require mouse support, because this is a trackpad, right? Imagine playing an FPS game with a trackpad, right? It's not very comfortable. But for games that require mostly like keyboard support, a lot of retro 2D platformers, shooters, like yeah, basically 2D games. Yeah, I think this computer is pretty good. It's almost as good as the Win 2, I would say. At least when it comes to ergonomics, it's not that bad. So, is it better than the Vulcan Flipstart? I would say yeah, if only for the weight, right? This thing's a lot lighter than the Vulcan Flipstart. So imagine this is all we had back then before the GPD Win 1. This is pretty much all we had when it came to playing retro DOS style games. We had this big ass right here, right? Very, very big, thick, chunky. But this was the best UMPC you could use for DOS games back then. I mean, right? When it came to the layout and everything, this was as ergonomic as you could get for UMPCs back then for playing DOS games. But now, Micro PC, of course, way better in every way, and it's much lighter and everything. So, yeah, I think it's definitely doable. Depending on type of games you play. If you only play 2D games, then I think the GPD Micro PC is definitely a good retro gaming machine. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe if you'd like to watch more of these kind of videos.